Now, one thing I've discovered over the 12 months I've been learning to fly is that the aviation community is an extremely friendly bunch of people, and they can't do enough for you, and it's really, really great to be a part of. And when you get talking with other pilots at the training centre and they discover that you're a brand new pilot, the question invariably turns to, oh, how many hours did it take you to get your PPL? And I reply, well, I was lucky enough to get through on the minimum 45 hours. And the facial expression they give me is nearly universal. It's, really? Wow. And the reason for that is it's very rare to get through on the minimum 45 hours, I'm told. In fact, apparently the average is sort of 55, maybe 60 hours to get through the whole course and pass. And I've been left wondering, how did I get through on the minimum hours? Am I like this super intelligent, massively gifted pilot? No. But I obviously did something right. So I sat down, I had to think about it, and these are my 5 tips on how to pass your PPL in the minimum 45 hours. So, tip number 1, momentum. This is probably the biggest tip I can give you. You've got to keep the momentum up. What I did is book 2 lessons every single week. Now, that's not to say you're going to do 2 lessons every week because of the weather, but if you book at least 2, hopefully you'll get at least 1. Now, actually, I wouldn't recommend doing more than 2, because if you do get 2, 3 is just a little bit too much. Sometimes 2 can be a lot. But if you book 2 a week, then hopefully you'll get at least 1. Now, you've got to remember that learning to fly is a depreciable skill. Meaning if there's a big gap in your training, you can forget an awful lot. So try not to leave big gaps in your training. Certainly the student pilots that I came across with big hours, sort of 55, 60 plus, nearly universally, there are big gaps in their training, sometimes sort of 6 months, and that can really hurt. So just try and keep the momentum up. Keep going, and that will make a big difference. 2, video it. I cannot express enough how helpful these videos have been in me learning how to fly. You've got to remember that as a new pilot, your brain just explodes with information. And when you're trying to fly and listen to your flight instructor, take everything in, you miss so much. So videoing was fantastic. I could review the footage. I can see what mistakes I was making. I could listen back to what Andrew was telling me and the other instructors. And it was so handy just to review everything and go back over it all. So definitely try to video it. And you don't necessarily have to use a 360 camera like I did, but just something pointing into the cockpit, showing you and the flight instructor, and also an audio recording of it. It's so helpful. Tip number 3, flight simulator. Now, mixed opinions on using flight sims for learning how to fly. If you go to the forums, some people say, yep, they're great. Some people say, no, they're not. Me, I think they're epic. I think it helped me so much in the initial stages of flying. I knew the layout of the Piper before I'd even got into the real aircraft. And what you can do in the sim is practice. So even though I got through on the minimum 45 hours, did I actually do 45 hours of flying? Well, no, I didn't. I probably did at least a third that again on the flight sim. Now, the difference in the flight sim is just how everything feels. The plane doesn't behave as per the real aircraft. You don't get the sights, the sounds, smells, the G-forces, turbulence, don't get any of that. But you can still practice everything. So what I did at the end of a lesson, go home, just sort the video out, and then I'd actually practice everything that I did in the flight sim. So that would include, oops, Pooch has hurt his foot by the looks of it. Make sure he's all right. Come on, Billy. Is he all right? Come on. Yeah, he's cool. So that would include everything from start to finish. I'd have my checklist on my lap in the flight sim, and I'd go through the checklist. I'd do the walk around of the aircraft. I'd do the pre-starting checks, start it up, radio transmissions. Obviously, it didn't go to anywhere, but I practiced them. The taxi checks, the power checks, everything I did on the flight sim. Up in the air, I could practice all the exercises. And the only thing which the flight sim let me down on was the glide approaches. It just didn't handle at all like the Warrior, so I couldn't really practice the glide approaches on the flight sim. But everything else I did, like VOR navigation, that was great in the flight sim. It's dead easy. It replicates it exactly. It's really good. And finally, I replicated the skills test route. It was brilliant. So I can thoroughly recommend the flight sim. Now, the downside with the flight sim is the cost of it. Now, if you have a PC already, it needs to be sort of reasonably powerful to run X-Plane 11, but it doesn't have to be a nuclear-powered one. I invested in flight control, so I had a yoke and a throttle quadrant and rudder pedals as well, and that made life very, very easy and useful. But if you haven't got anything, you're probably going to be spending probably about £1,000 really to get yourself a half-decent setup. That's £1,000 you can put towards lessons. And if I can work that out properly, that works out to 5 lessons, certainly with my flying school. So, swings and roundabouts. I think I got more out of it than 5 lessons. So I can certainly recommend the flight sim. Tip number 4. Get your exams out of the way as quickly as you can. I did not do this, and I wish I had, because I had to cram a lot in as my skills test was looming. So get them done as soon as you can. Now, the way I did it is I used an app called PPL Tutor and had all the Pooley's books. Now, that PPL Tutor is brilliant. And actually, I reckon I could have passed every single exam without reading one book and just memorised the answers on that app. The thing is, though, memorising and learning are 2 different things. So I didn't just use the app. Actually, I lie. One exam I did with just the app, and then after I passed the exam, I went back to the books just to check it out because I had to get it done quick. So don't rely on just the app. You've got to learn, so read the books as well. But PPL Tutor, amazing app, and I'm not kidding. If you memorise every single answer in that app, you will pass all your exams. Some of the questions are a little bit different, but you can figure it out. And if you've got all the books as well, if you look at a question on PPL Tutor and you can't quite figure out how to work it out, then that's you can go back to the books and check it out that way. So get the exams out of the way as soon as you can. That will make your life a lot easier. Okay, tip number 5. Be professional. Now, what do I mean by that? Flying is great fun, but the statistics are a little bit frightening in terms of those who are killed or seriously injured. So you've got to be serious about this. You've got to get a professional mindset. So what did I do? Well, before I'd even started any lessons, I did lots of research, reading books. The most famous one is Stick and Rudder. Get it. It's the fundamentals of flying, an absolutely brilliant read. And it helps so much to read that. So first book, Stick and Rudder. Then I read The Killing Zone. I'll put a link to these 2 books down in the description box below. Now, the Killing Zone is there to frighten you a little bit, but also to show you the dangers of flying and how easy you can get into trouble, and how you can, well, more importantly, how you avoid getting into trouble. So those are 2 very, very useful books. I went mad on the YouTube videos. I watched video after video after video, and not just the UK videos. YouTubers in the UK. I did a lot of American YouTube videos, and there's vast amounts of them. Now, our friends over in the States, they're flying mad, and they make stacks and stacks of videos, and they're really useful to watch. Okay, there's a few little differences between flying in the UK and then flying in the States, but the fundamentals are all the same. So watch as many videos as you can. It also helps when you're sort of studying up as well for navigation, that kind of thing. These videos are fantastic. Not to mention, I watched videos at the airport, so I was going to be landing it as well, just to give me a bit of a helping hand there. So books, videos, ask questions. At Compton, there's a whole community of pilots up there, and they're more than happy to help student pilots. So if I had a question, I was never afraid to ask someone. It was usually someone in ops or my instructor. But, you know, when you're having a nice cup of tea before your flight, you invariably start chatting to other pilots, and you can tap into their experiences as well. So do your homework, read the books, learn the theory. This is where the Pooley's flight books are very, very handy. So be professional in your approach, and that way you'll be fine. Okay, final bonus tip. Luck. Yep, I did get lucky. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I got lucky in the respect that I got a fantastic flight school. So my location, right next door to Compton Abbas, exposed me to a wonderful flying community and a fantastic training school. 2, weather. Now, I started my course in December last year, and you would have thought the weather would have been horrendous in this country, and I would have had loads of lessons cancelled, and that's pretty much what most people experience. But I got really lucky. I think I only had maybe 4 lessons cancelled, which is astonishing. So I got dead lucky. I'm paying for it now, though. I mean, look at this glorious day, and I still can't fly because the airfield is waterlogged. And I've had so many weeks cancelled. I haven't flown for nearly a month now. It's depressing. So I'm getting my payback. But in terms of when it really counted, when I needed to keep the momentum going, I got really lucky with the weather. So that's it for my tips to how to get your PPL in 45 hours. I hope you find them useful, and if you are going for your pilot's license, please feel free to ask me questions, and best of luck. Have a fantastic time. Hope you liked the video, and if you did, please hit the like button. Even better, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. See you next time.